So in the past, I walked through a season where I bore the shame of choices that I did not make. And unfortunately, sin doesn't happen in a vacuum. It can often have this like spillover effect, and that goes for all sin because all of us are sinners and all of our choices typically never just affect us. So anyway, I was in that season and this word disgrace kept coming to my mind a million times. And I remember saying, Lord, just remove my disgrace. I mean, the weight of it felt so heavy and so painful. And there's nothing wrong with praying that. But then I read this passage that encouraged me so much, and it's Hebrews 13:11-14. And it's kind of a weird passage because if you don't know the context, it's really weird. So back in the day, when animal sacrifices were a thing, they were made to atone for sin. And since the consequences of sin was death, an animal had to essentially absorb the sins of the people and die in order to atone for them. And the priests would bring animals to sacrifice on the altar in the Jewish temple and then take the animals outside of the temple gates to be burned. And by doing this, it essentially was a sin substitute that was going to wash people clean of their sin. So with that context, listen to this passage. For the bodies of those animals whose blood is brought to the most holy place by the high priest as a sin offering are burned outside the camp. Therefore, Jesus also suffered outside the gate so that he might sanctify the people by his own blood. Okay. So it's basically saying here, Jesus, who was crucified outside the walls of Jerusalem, which is an actual fact, bore the sin of all of us, once and for all, to end the need for animal sacrifice. But then it says in Hebrews 13:13, let us then go to him outside the camp, bearing his disgrace. So essentially what this passage is saying is if you're a believer, don't be surprised when you suffer disgrace just like Jesus did. Expect it. When it says, let us go to him, it's reminding us that Jesus knows disgrace. He is the poster boy for bearing disgrace. So not only does he understand when we face it, he is also inviting us into a purpose that is far greater than whatever circumstances are causing you to feel the weight of that disgrace. He's saying, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, but also don't be surprised when you face trials of many kinds, when you feel disgraced, excluded, or rejected. And Jesus is saying, I did too. Faithful obedience to God is going to mean disgrace on occasion. Somehow, for some reason, it's comforting to me, knowing that disgrace is to be expected. But then the following verse should fill you with a lot of hope. So it says, let us go to him outside the camp, bearing his disgrace, for we do not have an enduring city here. Instead, we seek one to come. So the disgrace is meant to unify us with Christ's suffering, but also point to a future and final hope that far outweighs any trial we walk through on this side of eternity. So maybe instead of asking God to remove my disgrace, maybe I should have also said, thank you, Jesus, that I get to share your disgrace and also share in the hope so much bigger than this moment. Sometimes it's all about perspective.